Definition on WMBD, provided by Extreme Motors.
Now from the High Definition Studios of WMBD, this is Living Well with Evelyn Wilkerson.
There is absolutely no reason to get a screening mammogram between the ages of 40 and 44. I'm your reason.
New guidelines from the American Cancer Society that have breast cancer survivors and medical professionals upset. Plus,
we know that it saves lives, and we just don't want to do any backtracking and lose that ground that we've made.
how a budget shutdown in Springfield is affecting vital services for cancer screenings across Illinois. And we tell you the risks and misconceptions surrounding this deadly disease. That and more on this Breast Cancer Awareness Living Well special.
Well, welcome and thank you so much for joining us to a special edition of Living Well. Now, today we are celebrating the victories of breast cancer survivors, honoring the memory of lives lost, and taking a closer look at the latest developments in cancer risk reduction strategies. It's not just about Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's about understanding the importance of awareness and prevention year-round. That's the call to action the Susan G. Komen Memorial Affiliate strives to accomplish in memory of Susan Goodman Komen, a Peoria native. Now, Komen was diagnosed when she was just 33 years old and died 3 years later. But her memory sparked a movement that serves the cause of promoting education, research, hope, and a fight for the cure. Well, today we honor that fight and take a closer look at the risks, unanswered questions, and risk reduction strategies in an effort to save lives. Let's first address what breast cancer is and some of the factors involved in determining the risk you have for being diagnosed with it. Now, we all have cancer cells in our bodies. However, breast cancer occurs when those cells grow out of control. They can even spread to other tissue close by or to other parts of the body. And it's widely acknowledged that breast cancer most frequently occurs in women, both within and outside the U.S. And this year, Komen estimates that more than 230,000 cases of invasive breast cancer will be diagnosed in the U.S. alone. And just last week, the American Cancer Society released its new recommendations for breast screenings. The organization just raised the age to get your first mammogram from 40 to 45.
She started screening at the age of 40. She increases dramatically the lifetime risk that she's going to have a false positive result, that she's going to need a breast biopsy that turns out with the doctor saying, well, you don't have cancer, sorry, we'll put you through all of this.
Now, just how will those new suggested guidelines affect all the hard work that has gone into promoting early detection? Well, joining me now with answers is Gail Young, Mission Director for the Susan G. Komen Memorial Affiliate. Welcome to Living Well.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Let's start off with how many false positives are we talking about? What are the stats?
You know, it's
there?
actually a fairly small percentage. It's a small percentage, and it's one of those things where when you get that call back, it is a bit of a nerve-wracking thing. It's a small percentage. When we talk about this, we're actually talking about people talking about overdiagnosis. Well, overdiagnosis doesn't come from the screening itself. You know, you have to go a long way down the road for that. And I think most women really, most of us would want to know if there was something, we're strong enough, we're tough enough to take it if we get that call back. Right. And so it is still a small percentage, but there are some false positives that come.
Gotcha. Well, that data, when you think about it, I mean, a small percentage, it's tough because Susan G. Komen reports that nearly 13,000 young women will be diagnosed this year. And furthermore, they state that it is estimated that more than 250,000 women who have been diagnosed with breast cancer at age 40 or younger are living in the U.S. Right. And some women are very concerned because you're caught between two things. Right. Do you want to risk being, you said, overdiagnosed, right, or do you want to risk, which I think is even worse, having cancer and letting it go undetected? Right. Now, just one other question that I have for you. What did the recommendation have to say about clinical screenings and self-exams?
Well, they're not, the American Cancer Society is not recommending either one of those procedures. And Komen, you know, has talked about the fact that a clinical breast exam for a lot of women is really one of the only screening tools they may have, depending on where they're located. A clinical breast exam maybe takes 30 seconds. Your provider can speak with you while you're getting that clinical breast exam, and for a lot of women it really is one of their only detection tools. Yeah, because it's kind of scary. You don't want people to not get screened. No, that's absolutely, for sure. Absolutely. Thank you so much for bringing some light on that. We really appreciate that. Well, the new screening
screening guidelines have one local survivor at a loss for words. And WMBD's Hannah Hilliard talked to a woman who's taking offense to the new recommendations. Hannah, what did she have to say?
Well, Evelyn, following the American Cancer Society's release of their new guidelines, we talked with a local cancer survivor on what she thought about the change. Jenny Shimon was diagnosed with breast cancer after her first mammogram at the age of 40. She says waiting any longer could have killed her and is asking the question, why wait?
It's dramatic, but I don't know how else to say it. I'm living proof that it can be caught when there's no indication.
Well, the American Cancer Society says it's raised the age because it lowers the chance of getting a false positive result, which could lead to intensive testing for something that turns out to be harmless. But local radiologist Daniel Hurst believes it will only lead to confusion.
It's more of a confusion thing, I think. Women are just like, what do I do? You know, when do I start? Do I even do it? Do I do it yearly? Should I do self-breast exams? Should I not? Should my physician do a breast exam?
Well, we've got more from Shimon and Hurst. Head to our website at ciproud.com for the full story. Evelyn.
Thanks, Hannah. Well, what are the chances that you could develop breast cancer? Well, no one can predict with 100% certainty. There are risk factors you do need to keep in mind and what they are after the break. Plus, the state of Illinois budget shutdown is affecting people who are in need of those vital screenings, how the impasse is stopping important services when we come back.
You're watching Living Well on WMBD.
Well, as of today, the state of Illinois has been without a budget for well over 100 days, and lawmakers in Springfield are saying it's not looking like the budget will be set anytime soon. We're joined by Central Illinois and the Record's Paul Giacchini. Now, Paul, can you tell us how the budget impasse is affecting screening sites across Illinois?
Yeah, Evelyn, the lack of a budget is now affecting free services for women who rely on life-saving screenings. The Illinois Breast and Cervical Cancer Program is running on federal money. Advocates say some providers have been forced to close early and stop paying workers. The Heartland Community Health Clinic is seeing a big impact. The budget cut is making it harder to serve the nearly 400 women who come from the Peoria area. Nearly 20,000 women received free services through the Breast and Cervical Cancer Program statewide. It's likely only 13,000 will get services for the next year. Now, of course, there's no indication lawmakers are close to reaching a budget deal. The earliest anyone expects a spending plan is sometime next year. Evelyn?
As the lawmakers continue their battle in Springfield, we want to make sure you have all the resources you need to make sure you can get screened. Here's a look at some local locations where you can have a breast cancer screening. Looking in Peoria, Unity Point Health Methodist and Unity Point Health Proctor, plus OSF St. Francis have a few centers to receive treatment. Now another couple for you watching in Morton and Washington, both OSF facilities with the Center for Health and St. Clair Family Health Center. And over in the Twin Cities, we have a few places where you can get tested. There's Advocate Broman Medical Center, Outpatient Center, plus the Community Cancer Center. You can also get a mammogram in Bloomington at OSF St. Joseph, as well as the Gail Kieran Center for Women. We posted these locations for you on our website, ciproud.com. Still ahead, some of the risks that come when you don't get screened and the misconceptions many people have about breast cancer.
You're watching Living Well on WMBD.
Well, in spite of the new recommendations by the American Cancer Society at the Susan G. Komen Memorial Affiliate, they teach that screening is key. Now let's look at some of the factors involved in determining the risk you have for being diagnosed with it. For example, gender and age are factors that none of us can control. Or recent use of birth control pills, or a family history of breast cancer, ovarian or prostate cancer, and being overweight, especially after menopause. Now those are just some of the many risk factors that exist, and if you fall into any of those categories, it's important to be vigilant and get screened. My next guest, Katie Parker, is the PR and Marketing Director for the Susan G. Komen Memorial Affiliate. She's going to talk about risk factors. Now, Katie, what more do we need to understand about risk factors? Yes, there are things that we cannot control, but we can't give up. There are some things that we can do.
Right, absolutely. And all the bullet points that you referenced are things that we do absolutely need to be aware about. We know being obese or overweight can lead to a variety of health concerns, of course, and increased risk of breast cancer. So number one is know your risk. You know, understand your family history. get screened, and certainly we kind of jump down to, you know, knowing what is normal for you, and then making healthy lifestyle choices, exercising, eating right, limiting alcohol intake. Those are all key points in, you know, our breast awareness message, and in doing some of those healthy lifestyle choices can, you know, help with risk reduction.
It surely can. And speaking of risk reduction, what are some of the risk reduction strategies that are out there?
You know, let's join gyms. Let's start working out. Let's eat healthier. You know, some of the points that I was talking about in the awareness message, those are very, very key. We cannot prevent breast cancer, but we can do things and make healthier decisions to, you know, hopefully minimize our risk a little bit more.
That's so important because it affected your grandmother, correct?
It did. Yeah, my grandmother was diagnosed, I can't remember my age, but she was about 60. So I had a little bit more heightened awareness. So kind of talking about that family history, it's something that crossed my mind, but going through my own diagnosis at the age of 30, I didn't think that anything would happen to me that young, but because I knew of my grandmother's history, you know, it prompted a conversation with family and friends that led me to my doctor and my diagnosis.
I love that you're saying that it prompted a conversation because this is something that we can't keep quiet. You have to share. That information is key. Knowledge, in fact, is very clearly an important key that you purport at Susan G. Komen Memorial Affiliate. Now, speaking of that, you were how old when you were diagnosed?
I was 30.
You were 30 years old. Wow.
So I don't fall under those normal screening guidelines, but of course with the family history I kind of got in right away. But what's interesting, in jumping back to the overdiagnosis comment, you know, I was originally diagnosed with a stage 0 breast cancer. And between the time of my first mammogram and biopsy and my 6 weeks later of surgery, became invasive ductal carcinoma in situ, which is one of the most common forms of breast cancer. But you know, if someone had said you're stage 0, let's just watch it, and I had waited longer, I don't know what would have happened. Well, I know that in 6 weeks' time, my cancer became invasive. So I was grateful to, you know, be able to get my screening and move forward.
So again, now you knew that your grandmother had it. What was your grandmother's name?
Charlotte Rogine.
Right, and then it skipped a generation to you. Now, did you know anything? Did you know that she was ill at the time?
I do remember, you know, I remember something. I was young, and, you know, we didn't know a lot about it back when she went through her diagnosis. We just knew that, you know, major surgery.
Gotcha.
And it prompted me to, you know, be aware of myself.
I'm so glad that you were able to have that information.
Yes, thank you.
So glad to see you're looking great, too.
Thank you.
Well, there are steps that we can take to help, and one of them is to get healthy, beginning with our diet, and we have some great advice after the break.
You're watching Living Well on WMBD.
Okay, junk food junkies, we simply have to make better choices when it comes to our daily meals and even late night snacks. It's not always easy, but it's necessary if we're going to get serious about taking better care of ourselves. Well, here with some suggestions about where we can get started is another breast cancer survivor, Rhonda Guyton. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
How important is diet here?
Diet is very important because you go through so many different changes before diagnosis, after diagnosis, and you want to stay healthy, you want to stay strong. When it comes to chemo, radiation, if you're eating a lot of unhealthy foods, those could affect part of your treatment, and of course you don't want that added weight gain. Gotcha. So one of the things you want to do is just come up with some healthy snacks. So when I was laying on the couch after my surgery, this is one of the things that I had going on because I like to snack. So pick something easy, something healthy. So
love that.
I'm going to take a little bit of this yogurt here.
Now you're using Greek yogurt specifically, right?
Yes, because I like the flavor and the texture of Greek yogurt, but it is whatever your little heart is content with. So you just put a little bit in there. And then some strawberries, and you want to grab some of the blueberries.
Sure.
We're going to mix this all in together.
Now, while we're mixing this together, do you mind telling us the age that you were when you were diagnosed?
I was diagnosed at 39. I was preparing for my 40th birthday party.
Really?
Yes, and I had decided that I wanted to continue on with my sexiness and get some enhancements.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and the doctor had said that he suggested I go ahead and get a mammogram.
So literally, if you had to wait to 45,
who knows? I may not even be here.
My gosh.
Yes. So it's very. So I don't agree with what has been said. However, just think about that. I had an aggressive type of cancer. So if I wouldn't have got checked, I was healthy, no history. So
any symptoms?
No symptoms. There was nothing, and that was the other piece to that. I didn't know my body because I wasn't doing breast self-exams. And had I been doing that, then I would have noticed the change in my body, but I didn't.
Gotcha.
So in addition to not doing my monthly exams, I was being vain and I wanted to get that done. So I'm glad that I didn't wait.
I am glad that you
I am
did.
glad that the doctor said, hey, you need to go ahead and get checked.
Gotcha.
So we got that all in there.
So we added some granola, we added some sliced almonds, and now we have some agave.
Yes,
This looks fabulous. Well,
it's going to be good.
I appreciate your sharing your story. I'm so glad that you did get checked out, and that's important.
Yes.
That's why I really hope people get screened. That is so key, necessary.
Yep. And then we're going to mix this up, and it is the bomb.
Thanks so much for showing us. Well, still ahead, if you're fighting a battle with cancer, you should know that you're not alone. The support group for anyone on a journey to a healthy recovery, next.
You're watching Living Well on WMBD.
Well, during this special Living Well, you've met two cancer survivors. And while the type of cancer they were diagnosed with is different, there's one thing they share in common. They're survivors. One of the key factors that helps them along their journey is support, not just from family and friends, but from others who share this experience. Here with more about the 4 Komen support groups in Central Illinois. In fact, as a cancer survivor, she is the founder of one of them, Shelley Kelch. Welcome to Living Well.
Hi there.
Now, how old were you when you were diagnosed, if you don't mind saying?
I was 48 when I was diagnosed.
Gotcha.
But I was healthy, and I still, did not have a clue. It was just an annual mammogram that got the diagnosis. But then I was so scared and freaked out, and Komen helped me. They put me with different survivors to talk to, and I said, we need a place to talk and meet. So we now have a group called the Komen Cafe. We meet monthly, and for newly diagnosed men and women with breast cancer diagnosis, they can come and talk to survivors. Komen also has specialized group. They have a Young Survivors Coalition for those diagnosed under 40, because they have unique topics that they want to go to. We have Circle of Promise, which is an outreach to the African American community, and they do lots of research and connect with the resources to the survivors. And we have a brand new one called the Mesestic one, where when your cancer goes to the different places, it travels away from your breast. It's that Mesestic breast cancer, and we have a clinical counselor that's leading that group. So the 4 different groups meet once to twice every month at the Komen offices.
Well, and how much did that mean to you during your struggle here?
Everything.
Everything. Well, that's good. We want people to know that those support groups are very, very helpful, and we're so glad that you started one. Glad that you just decided to do something and help other people coming along as well.
And every month there's new people that come in, and they're raw. They're just so,
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate it. Let's review those cancer groups again, the support groups again. They are Komen Cafe, Circle of Promise, Metastatic Breast Cancer Support Group, and Young Survival Coalition Face-to-Face Networking. A group for women of color will be starting soon. Well, it's my hope that you have found our survivor stories inspiring and have fully learned something new. I pray that you take the time to take good care of yourself, get screened, and encourage others to do the same. To all of those who are making the journey right now, we really, here at WMBD, we applaud you. We thank you for your time in watching this show. We'll see you tomorrow for a Halloween special at 4 o'clock.